Hello and welcome back to Down the Track. Today we will be talking about the preview for the Ashes. It is the most exciting Test series, unless you bring India and Pakistan together, which will be a completely different thing. But until then, Ashes is probably the most exciting Test series, and it is the most awaited, the most watched series in for a lot of years. Even though you and me, Musti, we don't have any connection to Australia or England, but we enjoy watching the Ashes as much as any other series. It's always feisty. It's always fun to watch, and it's always competitive, which is the best thing. The first Test match, there's been a lot of talk about the Tim Payne issue. There's been a lot of talk about Australia going to Australia. England haven't won there since 2011, so there's a lot to look forward to. Some exciting cricket for sure along with the way. But Australia are now T20 champions going into the Test format. A different ball game, but they will be excited and they will have their tails up now. And England with a lot to prove again after somewhat of a poor performance with India when they were in England over there. Your
Yeah,
thoughts,
for
Musti, on the Ashes tour?
I mean, for us is the most exciting, especially Australia. I mean, right now I'm in the Middle East, but for you, the timing is going to be perfect. So you're going to enjoy that. This is the time after work you sit back and watch some Test cricket. So I'm really happy for you. And because otherwise you have to struggle and wake up at 4 5 a.m. It's not a problem for you, but at least this is much better. Now I'll have to be awake and everything, but I've enjoyed some of the T20 World Cup with good timings and stuff. So I just want to say that's good. But Ashes, I'm very excited. Particularly this one, there's not been that much preparation, so I don't exactly know what I'm going to see from both the teams. There might be a surprise. Going in, I think Australia is still favorites. I
Yeah.
think just because even in that India series last time, I thought Australia were favorites. I think they have to be more smart about rotation. And just on paper, if you see their batting, it just looks a bit stronger compared to England's. And their pace attack looks like one which is suited for these conditions. If you look at India's pace attack and England's, there is a difference in terms of style of bowling. If they were going to New Zealand, I would say England were favorites in this. They're better chances than India to win away from home. But if you look at, I'm comparing India because they were there last, right? So now if you compare this to the India's attack, India have the likes of Bumrah, Siraj who hit the deck. England, I don't really see that. Ollie Robinson, yes, he's decent, but again he relies on movement. I think apart from Mark Wood and Geoff Archer's not playing, England have a more seam attack. So depending on the weather right now, I heard there's a lot of rain in the Gabba. There's a weather around. It's going to be overcast, so that might help them. But apart from that, I think just these conditions don't suit them as much. And then when it comes to the batting, if Joe Root can replicate last winter, then they're in with a shout. Now he has Ben Stokes in support, but it's an undercooked Ben Stokes, so it's something. Which is going to be interesting to see. And just from Australia's point of view, new captain Pat Cummins, bowling, batting, fielding, captaincy. I'm sure he's going to take the help of Steve Smith, but I'm very interested to see how it goes.
It's been a long time since we've seen a bowling captain. I think usually these are this is the consensus in cricket is that a bowling captain usually doesn't work. We haven't really seen a famous bowling captain in a long time now, obviously. I mean, of course, there back in the day there was the couple Daves and so on and so forth, but always all rounders, Wasim Akram for a short stint and stuff like that. But it's never really worked out very well. So this will be interesting to see how this kind of pans out. Starting with Australia, right? I mean, David Warner back in form, big plus for them. They had the selection headache for the Usman Khawaja and Travis Head situation. They've gone in with Travis Head because they've announced their 11, so that's a good headache to have, so to say. Alex Carey coming in for Tim Payne, in my personal opinion, is a better suited player. I think in terms of, I have taking nothing away from Tim Payne. I think he's a good batsman as well, but I think Alex Carey gives you a little bit more of that flair, and I think I like that about Carey, so that's always good. And then Nathan Lyon, obviously, with the spin is he's probably their best spinner right now. I mean, Adam Zampa is there, but I think Adam Zampa is focusing a little bit more on white ball, and I think Nathan Lyon is your red ball cricketer in terms of the spin. My worry is that they've gone in with the standard Hazelwood, Cummins, and Stark. Stark has looked a little off color for a while now. Pat Cummins with this extra responsibility, and Josh Hazelwood has been good, but I think he tends to have some off time a little bit here and there, so that could be a problem. So that is probably the only worry, but I think Cameron Green comes in to give them support, which is always nice to have that extra fifth bowler who's handy and who's a paceman actually at this point in time, which is very good. That way they can bring in Nathan Lyon over here as well. So it's nice to see that they have a well-rounded, well-structured team. Your kind of strengths and weaknesses in this time in this side, if you want to look at that.
I think you mentioned Nathan Lyon, right? I think Nathan Lyon versus Jack Leach. Nathan Lyon wins that battle. I think that's a big plus. He was unlucky in that India series. Remember, Tim
Yeah,
Payne
yeah,
messed up behind the
yeah.
stump, so he's going to be a big player for them. I think that's a big strength. Nathan Lyon is a big strength. Weakness is about rotation. I think they need to rotate. What you talked about, Mitchell Stark. I want to see him bowl, but I want to see him bowl in bursts. I don't want to see them play every single Test match. I know
Yeah.
nobody wants to rest, but you saw what happens. Australia, the conditions are a bit hotter. Yes, India played with a more inexperienced team, but they were fresher bowlers, and that made the difference in the end at the Gabba. So I think you have to take that into consideration, especially with the bio bubble. It's mentally tiring. We know that. We've heard it from cricketers, we've heard it from journalists, we've heard it from commentators. It gets tiring. So I think you need to rotate, and I would like to see Jai Richardson play a couple of tests. Maybe sit out a star, keep these players fresh and let them bowl in bursts and rotate them even in matches, not just in spells. So I think that's what I want to see from Australia. Another weakness that I think, apart from Smith and Labuschagne, that batting, there is some issue over there. Travis Head, we saw him. He's been Bumrah's bunny or Ishant Sharma or something like that. He gets starts sometimes and then he gets out. The opening pair have had issues. David Warner has not been in form, although he's the man of the series in the T20 World Cup. He wasn't in form in the Test arena. He's been injury prone as well in that India series. Marcus Harris again giving starts but doesn't capitalize as much. So apart from those two, Labuschagne and Smith, there is some weaknesses there. But against England, these guys always bring their A game. And if Warner gets off to a start, if he starts scoring hundreds and double hundreds, it's game over right there. It's going to be 3-0, 4-0.
Yeah.
But if they can get Warner out early and as quick as you can get Labuschagne and Smith into the crease, the better for you. And then it's about bowling smartly to them. We saw India setting that leg side trap, right? Packing the leg side, Ashwin targeting the pad, Siraj targeting the pad. So innovation. I'm sure they have the analysts there in Australia with them, the England team. Be a bit smart in terms of field placements and try to put Australia under pressure. Yes, for England, the biggest challenge is going to be, I think Nasir Hussain said this in Sky Sports recently, that they're not playing against 11 men, they're playing against the whole country. They're going to be sledging in and out. I don't know if you saw Jack Leach went with Anderson and Broad for dinner, and then they started sledging them. And he's like, what the hell? Why are they sledging the two best players in Test cricket?
I read
But that's
that.
a very hostile atmosphere. And so that's going to be a mental challenge, keeping mentally fit, and then playing that Australian pace attack in conditions where it suits that pace attack, that extra bounce. How do the batsmen adjust? I'm very surprised not to see Bairstow there, man. I thought just name his presence maybe in place of a Maran or a Pope. I think I would have liked to see that, but otherwise the likes of Butler, Stokes and Root have to really step up, and the work will be cut out against this Australian attack.
Absolutely, I think 100%. It just brings me to a point where we mentioned about the batting. I think Travis Head, you said mentioned, but I think he's coming in with a lot of form because I think he scored a bulk of runs in the domestic arena. David Warner coming back in form, so I think like you said, advantage is towards Australia. But if those bowlers can really bowl those lethal spells, especially Mitchell Stark, he really comes in, bowls those good spells, those nice bouncers, those take it away, take it back in, and that the Mitchell Stark of 2015 that we've been ever so wanting to see for a long time now. So hopefully he can bring some of that flair in, and then if that's the way this Australian team shows up, then England have really no chance. But coming to England, the obvious decision they have to make is probably dropping one bowler, which will probably be either Jack Leach or the one of the pace trios in Broad, Ollie Robertson and Mark Wood. Who do you think that is probably going to, or Chris Wokes also? So who do you think is probably going to make way?
I think from the conditions, Jack Leach, very unlucky. The guy just can't catch a break. I feel that when Ben Stokes is there, that his chances are better. But because Ben Stokes is undercooked, he hasn't really played a lot of cricket. He doesn't have a lot of international matches under his belt recently. I think they'll slowly ease him in, and that's why they're going to play their extra pacer. Just because it's raining at the Gabba right now, the pitch looks green. Of course, they will shave off a layer of grass, before the start of play. But still, I think there will be some assistance just because of the weather around. And that's why they'll probably go 4 seamers. I personally would go with Leach, hold one end up, try to target. We saw Ashwin picking up wickets with the new ball, right? I know Ashwin is a much more talented bowler. I'm not comparing him with Leach, so don't get upset with me. But I just feel that a spinner always helps you hold one end up. A Lyon will play his part as well, Nathan Lyon. So I think in that sense, I would go with Leach, but I don't think they will. I think they'll go with 4 pacers and Ben Stokes as your 5th seamer.
The only reason, like you said, if Ben Stokes comes in, it gives Jack Leach a little bit of a chance, similar to how Australia is set up. They have Cameron Green as their
Yeah.
number 6, so they easily make a line in there. So if you had to choose amongst the 4 pacers, who
If
would
I
your
have to choose.
yeah, if you had to choose to drop one of the pacers, who would your choice be?
Look, Mark Wood will give me pace, so I'm going to keep him. All right. Uh, Vokes, I think he can provide with the bat and the ball. He can swing it around as well. So I'll keep him. Now it's between Broad and Robinson. I think Robinson has been outstanding. But just because of reputation and everything, I would go with Broad. He has that experience. You're playing an Ashes Test match. You need an experienced bowler there. Anderson's already not playing, so I'd go with Broad. So that makes Ollie Robinson, the guy who
Salute.
misses out, in my opinion. But I don't think they'll go that way. I think Robinson will play. But if you just ask me, I would just go that route just because Anderson's not playing. And if you're keeping Broad and Anderson in the squad, like I said from before, unless they're injured, which Anderson is, you have to play them. Broad looks fit, so you'll have to play him. If he doesn't perform, then of course you can get him out and bring Robinson back in. But first test match on a tour to Australia, you'll need the experience of one of those two.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you 100% over there. Unfortunately, Ollie Robinson has been very, very good, but I think that he will have to miss out only on the basis of
He'll play though.
he probably will play though. Yes, so we'll see how that goes. But England will be very happy to have Ben Stokes back. Even an undercooked Ben Stokes is still is still Ben Jimin Stokes. So he's something else. So he's quite a talisman himself. He will bring this team up when they are down. He's just an enigma, so to say. He's always risen to the occasion, and he loves these kind of challenges. So he will definitely be out there. If Root, like you said, can continue his form, then that's good. Butler will be feeling good after the T20 World Cup as well. Just in terms of how his form is feeling. David Malan has been doing well. Ollie Pope has been doing well. Yes, I agree with the fact that Bairstow has missed out, but Bairstow has looked a little off color. There will remain to be see how that works out. I think the most important thing will be how the openers can really give them a stand. If the likes of Hamid and Burns can really, get them off to good starts, I think that this team has what it takes to really challenge Australia. But I think it's important that they don't keep losing quick wickets. If the openers can really, the openers has been an issue for England for a while now since Alistair Cook is retired. I feel like they've really been trying to chop and change, and they've really never come to a consistent two players that play. I think that has been a problem with a lot of teams. To be honest, India has also tried a few, and they've kind of finally come to a times, but then they keep rotating as well. So it's a good problem to have for India. But I think in terms of England, I think Rory Burns is somewhat starting to stabilize himself. But I think his partner has been a little bit of a problem. Hopefully, Hamid can really make the most of these opportunities that he'll probably get and get a few runs under his belt. Just not for himself, but for England in general.
Yeah, I agree. You need to start with that new ball if you can see it off. And in Australia, we noticed via Pujara that you can really take the shine off the ball and then start getting the runs, right? So if someone from the top two takes the shine off, then the likes of Root, Ben Stokes, Butler will score the runs for you. So I think that's very important. In Australia, you can afford to take your time. It doesn't have to be like England, New Zealand, where you take your time, but then you can get nick off at any time. In Australia, you can afford to take your time and then build your innings and really accelerate. And I think that's what they'll look to do. Now, I also heard that the new Kookaburra, it has a more presented seam, so it might nip around a bit more. So watch out for that. I just read a few articles about that, and can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I think I lost you there.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
I think
No, my internet.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, once you get that shine off the ball, it becomes easier to bat, I feel, in Australia, and that's what Hasib Hamid will have to do with Rory Burns. Rory Burns, again, he does have some weaknesses with the ball coming in and everything, so he has to watch out for that. But then you flip it around, Broad against Warner, that's also a battle. Broad
Absolutely.
has had Warner's number. Again, different conditions. Warner might favor these a bit more, and if he gets going, he already has confidence now because I know it's a different format, but he has that confidence.
Yeah.
If he gets going, Warner will be very dangerous. So it works both ways. I think opening stand will be key, and to get that shine off that ball and really keep that opposition at bay initially in the first 20-30 overs.
Yep. But nothing beats the excitement of an Ashes, and I think we both are excited. It's going to happen in a few hours. Almost in terms of Test cricket.
Yeah,
But
for me, Test cricket is the pinnacle. I mean, these days, India Australia has been a lot of fun to
yeah,
watch,
yeah.
especially whether not only the last tour, if you the tour before that, then when the brain fade thing happened, that India Australia rivalry is building. But now I think because of the lack of preparation from both sides, also I feel like you said, England are looking a bit better. I think they're traveling a bit well. Yeah, they lost to India, but remember they won that first Test match, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had to change the pitches. The pitches were changed, then anybody's going to struggle on this pitches. To be fair enough, right? And still they
absolutely.
were competing, right? Root was picking up 5 wickets, Leach was picking up wickets. So I think England is traveling a bit better, but against Australia, something happens to them in Australia. I hope it doesn't happen again. I want to see a very close series, and I keep referring to the 2005 series. I want to see something like that, man. Make it like a 3-2 or a 2-1.
2011 was apparently the last time England has won in Australia. So that's a long time. It's been
Yes.
10 years since
Yeah.
that has happened.
With
So
Strauss as captain
Andrew
and
Strauss is captain.
Anderson hushing up Mitchell Johnson like this. Bro, one thing was for sure sledging, man. It's
That's
going to be
gonna
back.
that's
I want to see some sledging. That's what I really want to see in this series.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. I think that's something that's one of the aspects of the Ashes that we all love to see. As long as it doesn't cross a line, I think that I'm all game for it. There was this
Yeah.
just before we go on to players of the match. Just one quick comment over here. When T20 cricket was really evolutionizing and becoming a big thing, there was a lot of talk about Test cricket giving weight to T20 cricket. But I feel like over the past few years, there's been such amazing Test cricket that I would, for one, be absolutely devastated if Test cricket was given a backseat in any form. For me, if I had to choose, I'd probably keep Test cricket and T20 cricket and probably go away with one day. But I think Test cricket has just over the past few years really changed the perception of how people are watching it. More and more people are watching it. There've been closer games. There've been more fun games to watch. And just watching Test cricket, watching bowlers at it, be it spinners or fast bowlers, has just been a phenomenal thing to watch. And just want to get a quick thought on that. If you have any specific thoughts on that, just what do you feel about Test cricket in the next, let's say, 10-15 years?
I think it's going to survive because the players back it. If you
Mm-hmm.
just look at from Virat Kohli to Steve Smith to Joe Root, all these guys want to play Test cricket, right? They want to perform there. For them, even when they go back home, they're asked like, when are you going to play Test cricket for Australia or for India? When are you going to get the baggy green, the baggy blue, or whatever it is? Test cricket is the pinnacle. Like, for the cricketers themselves, they always say is the biggest challenge: 5 days, mental test, physical test. You have to play 4 innings. For them, it's like, I don't know what your work is like. Would you rather take the bigger challenge or the lesser challenge? You always want to go for that bigger challenge. And
Yeah.
as long as the players are always motivated, and I'm sure they will because it is the toughest format, then Test cricket will survive. In terms of audience, yes, it depends on the pitches as well, conditions. But like you said, over the years, I think the best cricket we've seen, whether it's that Ben Stokes, innings in
With Jack
Australia,
Leach.
yeah, or with Rishabh Pant in Gabba. The last time there was a game at the Gabba, right? At the
Yeah,
Gabba
yeah.
12. If you see these test matches, they've been much more entertaining than the recent T20 World Cup, in my opinion, right?
Absolutely.
So I think people will tune in. Of course, not everybody can watch 8 hours of test cricket, right?
Of course.
It's not easy. Even people who cover it, like, sometimes they're going to take a break. It's not
Yeah.
going to thing. But I think the overall engagement will always be there. And for these two countries, I noticed, like, even when I was talking to the fans in Dubai during the World Cup, or even when the players were giving interviews, they're always talking about the Ashes, man. For them, it's Ashes, Ashes, Ashes. I don't know what it is, but they want to win the Ashes. Even when you saw Australia, yeah, they were happy they won the T20 World Cup, but then suddenly the focus shift. We need to win the Ashes, and like the whole thing. If India won the T20 World Cup, I would still be talking to you about the final. I would say, yo, you remember when like this guy hit the winning shot? But for them, this is the pinnacle. They want to play Test cricket. As long as the players back it, then the format will survive. And in terms of viewership, if you see in England, Australia, South Africa, to a certain extent, it's not a problem. I think where the problem is in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh. That's where the fans don't come in terms of stadiums and stuff like that. Whether it's because of time, whether it's because of heat, I don't know what it is. But if you look at these places right now, it's Christmas time, festive period in Australia. They're going to come in numbers. Especially Boxing Day is going to be full, bro.
Boxing Day,
Like, I don't know what the COVID capacity is, but I think they're allowing maximum capacity, if I'm not mistaken, or probably 80%. But
Australia needs to
do,
open up their borders. Once they do that, there'll be a lot more people coming in.
Yeah, I don't know if the Barmy Army is going to be there. I don't think they're going to be there. But
I
they'll
don't
be
believe
staying
they're
awake.
allowing. I don't believe they're allowing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you saw when India was there in England recently, in Headingley, was it at Leeds, right? That
Yeah,
Western Terrace, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
bumping, man. Like that's a proper atmosphere. So I think in these countries, it's not a big for them. Test cricket is priority. For us, I think we have whatever the reason is. Like we don't have that many numbers in India and Pakistan in terms of stadium watching, but we still have the people sitting at home and watching Test cricket, whether it's our dads or our cousins or our friends. Everyone watches Test cricket, especially when it's a cliffhanger, right? Day five,
Absolutely.
like we saw in the India in New Zealand series, day five, 1 wicket to go, 10 overs to survive. Everyone will tune in.
Everyone watching it, absolutely, 100%. I think bringing it back to the Ashes right now, your players
Yeah.
to watch out for in each team.
Yo, this is very tough. You want me to keep it simple or complicated?
It's up to you.
So simple Steve Smith and Joe Root. I think they're the best players in the respective teams. If they perform, score the big runs and daddy hundreds, 150, 160, whoever scores those will give their team a huge, huge lift. And right now, I think them plus Kane Williamson are the best batsmen in the world right now in the Test format. I have to mention Williamson. Babar Azam's right up there as well in all formats. But I think if you just look at the Test format, these three scored daddy hundreds, in recent times over the last 10 years. Virat Kohli is there in that conversation. Of course, he hasn't had 100 in the last year, but these two in particular, Root versus Smith, I think this battle, I really want to see it. Whoever scores more runs will give their team the advantage and lead their team closer to a series victory, I feel. So I'm going to keep it versus Smith. These are the key players.
Absolutely, I think that's a fair shout. There's no denying that. I for one, I'm looking forward to Dave Warner. I have been a Dave Warner fan since 2014, and I was ecstatic when
since he moved to Hyderabad. It will make it
just
simple.
a year before that, just to make myself feel a little bit better about it. But anyway, yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to the Ashes 100%. Who will win the toss? Because the toss becomes a very important thing. Although in Australia, I don't think it's as important as it is maybe in some of the other places. But who will win the toss?
Well, again, with the conditions, if it is overcast, then they might bowl first. But if it's sunny, man, you have to bat in Australia. I mean, even though India survived somehow two games, they won one and thing. I don't know how that happened, but I would like to bat first. But if there is weather around, I think they will bowl first. Who will win the toss? I think Pat Cummins on debut will win the toss. He doesn't have any experience, but toss all about luck, man. Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It can go either way. But I think England will need it a bit more. I think if they win the toss again, I've seen England win the toss and still screw up in Australia. So for me, it is also the lower order is very, very key. Joss Butler, Wokes, Ben Stokes to a certain extent, Ollie Pope. These guys from 4 to 7 are going to be key because I've seen England 140 for 2. It was the last Ashes in Australia. I think Vince got run out and then bang, 300 all out.
Yeah.
So that lower order for England is going to play key. Australia have Carey and Green. Green, watch out. I think he's going to score some runs. He's going to trouble this England bowling lineup. So I think that will be key as well. So even if England do win the toss, I think that application needs to be there. That intensity needs to be there from batsman 1 to batsman 11 and with the ball from bowler 1 to bowler 5 or 6. That intensity needs to be there. They can't let Australia back into it. You let Australia back into it, they're going to really press you because this Australian team is talented. They've won the T20 World Cup. Yes, they lost to India, but they will not make those mistakes. I don't think again. They will learn from that. Justin Langer won't allow them to make repetitive mistakes.
I agree 100%. It's going to be exciting. It's in a few hours, so we are excited as well. Looking forward to it, and we will keep you updated on all things Ashes as the days go along. Yes, please go ahead.
I wanted to ask you one quick question. Your prediction for the series?
3-2 to Australia.
3-2 to Australia. No rain, huh?
If there is rain, I mean, there's always these things that are not in our control. But hopefully, we'll have 5 full games, 5 full results, and I think 3-2 to Australia.
3-2 to Australia. I mean, I hope I see that. Like, if that happens 3-2 either team, that would be great. Like, whether England or Australia win it. England win it, it'll be great for them. If Australia win it, I expect them to win. I'm going 4-1 Australia. I just feel that if they, get momentum going. I hope it's not the case. I'm not trying to be over smart. I hope it's not the case. I hope it's like 2-2, 3-2. And I don't mind either side winning, to be honest. I don't have a favorite right now. Normally, I would go with England. But just now, I just feel they're a bit more balanced. Again, I might favor England if they're under, if Australia start dominating just because you want the underdog to come. But I think, it will be a bit more one-sided than we might expect.
Fair enough. I think that wraps it up for today. We will be in touch over the next month or so.
Sir.
Of course, looking forward to it. But that's about it for today. Thank you,
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you, Don, and I will catch you after day's play.
as always.
Take care.